Hello folks, welcome to Godsman Gaming. I've got a 1v1 for you today. The 1v1 is between me trying out a new tactic as the Wehrmacht, and we have Awesome as Fuck is my opponent. He's playing USF and we are on Kolodny Ferma, if I remember correctly. We might not be. All I know is I hate this map. This map to me hurts me on so many levels. But yes, so I am playing the Wehrmacht. Hopefully the volume mix is okay. It's a bit quiet for me, but hey, it's what you guys hear that matters. Hopefully you can hear me and they're not really secretly super loud. Anyway, so why do I want to show off this game? It's because I'm trying a newish tactic. Sort of semi-historical, except that these guys are probably not realistic in the sense that Osttruppen wouldn't be the guys the German army would be using, but what I'm doing in this game is I'm building for every single Osttruppen squad I get, I'm building an MG42. And on this map here, I think this map really lends itself very well to MG42s and machine guns in general because it's such a clusterfuck of choke points. I mean, this map has really very little way to maneuver once you lock down key points. The Osttruppen doctrine is a very strong one to play it a certain way. I mean, it's very easy to hard counter, and it's a very risky doctrine. It played the correct way. I do see potential in it, and it used to be one of the doctrines I'd be like, why? Why are people playing it? But then I was like, well, historically the German army built itself around MG42s and riflemen and you know, MG42 base of fire, and the riflemen's just supporting the MG42. So I came up with this little build just to see how it would work if I tried to do it in an actual game. So we will see how it goes. Now, the aim is to get to Panzer IVs quickly. That is why the supply drop zone is very, very, very nice. Basically, the aim is to use the MG42s to keep control of the map long enough, the Osttruppen to basically act as meat shields for the MG42s, and it's to play a relatively forward defensy game until you can get that supply zone, get the critical amount of tanks needed to counterattack. And I would say the USF is the ultimate challenge because they are a very mobile army. So they are a very good challenge, and this was the first time I actually tried this tactic out. I've tried it out a few more times to varying successes. I'm not nominally a 1v1 Wehrmacht player, but I wanted to try it. Now, one of the weaknesses of using Osttruppen instead of Grenadiers is, of course, that they only have the Panzerfaust, but I think it's a very reasonable trade-off to get just a Panzerfaust. You know, I built the infantry company for the reason that I do want access to that Panzerfaust. I don't want to not have access to that Panzerfaust. So yes, that is why I did decide to build it. Luckily, my opponent mismicroed over here, and his rifleman took more damage, but you know, he doesn't do a good job. He could have finished off potentially that thing, but he got, I think, a little bit freaked out. And that's the power of the MG42 right there, combined with, you know, good placement of support units. I managed to force off 2 riflemen squad. I mean, obviously the MG42, it was the decisive factor. The engineers actually almost getting wiped there. That could have been disastrous, but luckily the MG42 saved the day there. But yeah, the amount of MG42s I've placed on the field is very strong. And then the 4th unit being a artillery field officer, being, I think, replacing the 3rd Osttruppen, because I was thinking if I have 3 Osttruppen squads on the field, that's a lot of pretty mediocre things. But the artillery field officer's decent. I mean, he has the concentrated fire ability, which increases accuracy and vehicles can fire faster, but he also has the smoke barrage, which can be useful, especially there's no smoke here for vehicles, so the ability to pop mortar smoke on enemy AT guns, for example, is something I was looking towards. My opponent over here, he's gone for a heavy cavalry company, which is interesting. Heavy cavalry company does have a very nice late game punch, Combined arms is very strong. Range is very, very nice if used correctly. But he's not using... I mean, we can see from the placement, he's blobbing up and he's not using his forces effectively. A bit of a micro fail here. The MG... Oop, there we go. The MG should have moved up earlier to get on the flank here, but that's exactly what I'm going to do. The riflemen do not go for this, which is lucky. That was very lucky for me. They go onto the red cover. My Osttrooper here, not particularly smart moving them up, so they will be forced off. Hopefully, no medical supplies from me or my opponent yet. Down here, we're having a bit of a face-off. Neither one can really close in, and we've been like this for ages now. So he tries to face check an MG. He has not upgraded to grenades yet. But with that, they will be forced off because of the successful flank there. MG42 obviously is not God. Cannot constantly do everything. But a lot of focus up here, not a lot down here. My opponent has actually placed down a fuel cage, which is a somewhat risky play because we are still very early on in the game. Placing down this early is very, very risky. A medical unit would have been a much smarter play. But he is leading on fuel. He does have that fuel advantage because of this. And he does eventually win when I decide enough is enough. He's got to have moved these riflemen away. I was wrong. But he's gone for an interesting build. He's gone 3 riflemen. I usually go 4, but it did mean he rushed towards a captain much faster, grabbing access to the hard counter to this strategy, I believe, which is pack howies, because the MG42s, like, which are kind of the linchpin of this strat's early game, you know, they get countered by artillery, so I can see some problems against, you know, artillery and mortars. I do think I get out of here in time. Hopefully I do. Otherwise this would be very, very embarrassing. Yeah, I decide that it's about time to get out of that building. But yeah, the rear echelon in heavy cover, proving more than enough, proving they have more than enough hit points to tank it while the howitzer lays down pain. Now that building's pretty much, you know, unusable. But MG42 moves into the church here, and a solid cutoff point. This is one thing I also don't like about this map, is how easy it is to cut off positions here. I cannot say I agree with how easy it is to cut off half of the map to your opponent just by capping this one single point here. Yeah, we are seeing this pack howie do work. But yeah, see, once that pack howitzer came about, my forces kind of were forced into the back foot. The good thing is I did manage to wipe out a rifleman squad, so there was a bit of mismicro from my opponent here, and he is in a very precarious position with the bazookas. Has he gone major tech already? That's a very early major. So he's rushing to major instead of grabbing, say, a Stuart to kind of reinforce. Like, he's got a decisive advantage. At this point, I would have considered getting a Stuart just to cement this lead. He's capturing both fuel points. He's got a decisive resource advantage. It would be a good time right now to grab a Stuart to just concrete it. A major is not going to help at this point. It'll help you later on. It's investing in the bank, but at this point, I don't think it's the right decision. At this point, I very much don't. Now that I can see what position he was in at this time, I was freaking out because I was thinking the Stuart was coming and it was good game. But luckily, my opponent made a critical misplay there, instead going for the thing which allows this thing, because that's the thing with the MG42s. I noticed. And you can see I'm freaking out, so I'm getting the Panzergrenadiers to get ready to counter it. And I go for the cutoff point. But that's the thing with the MG42s, once they've gotten that pack howie, they've put you on the back foot. Capping up top here, I make an almost critical misplay there later on. I don't know whether I'll catch it or not, but I try and bait his rifleman into face checking an MG42. He very quickly reacts, and I go in to try and pick off a few more models, but I don't think it succeeds. I think I actually end up bailing, yeah, because the captain is nearby. But yeah, where is that? This pack howie, in all its glory, it does work. I mean, he uses it to its maximum effect, and it irritates me throughout the entire game, but he refuses to send his units here, instead shifting to mid, I believe. And the thing is with this map, there's just so many buildings around the key victory points that an MG42 heavy build is a thing. And here's my misplay. I pop the retreat on these guys because I want to build the Panzer headquarters as soon as possible, but then I find out that the artillery field officer cannot apparently capture boxes. He cannot capture fuel supplies. So if these riflemen were in position to attack here, I'd be fucked. Luckily, the Panzer Grenadiers are heading up. We do see the MG engaging the riflemen here. I did forget. No, I didn't forget. Good. I just but yeah, he's doing good damage to these buildings with that Pak-Howie, and he's really denying me the full use of the strategy I really want to do. But on the other hand, the good strength about Osttruppen is they're very cheap to manpower reinforce. They get you to those supplies. They allow you to call in supplies and get that decisive fuel advantage, which I'm going to translate into a Panzer IV at 11 minutes, which isn't the fastest, but it's going to beat him to his Sherman, even though he's held most of the resources, and he's got, you know, a resource advantage at least per ticks.
All sectors, ability now ready.
I think over here, yep, he tried to move up and it was wiped out by bundled grenade, and then I'm gonna try and do the same thing here, but I think he'll learn his lesson. MG42 is in a dangerous position, should retreat soon. Yes. But yeah, Osttruppen does scare off the Pak-Howie before he can get off another shot. And again, keep going for this cutoff point, because on this map it's just too easy to go for this cutoff point. It's a bit harder to go for this one because it's in the middle of the open. So a bit of it's one of the things that irked me about this map. It's not perfectly symmetrical, and I'm not saying every map has to be perfectly symmetrical, but I mean the amount of the advantage that a person trying to decap this point has versus a person trying to decap this point, it's a bit egregious. A bit. Mind you, it varies. I mean, if an OKW person was playing here, they could put a Panzer Command here and just absolutely devastate everything because of the line of sight blockers and that jazz. But yeah, the great thing about using Osttruppen as your meat shields is because, of course, they cost 16 manpower to reinforce, which is almost half the price that a Grenadier uses. And in my opinion, Grenadiers aren't great infantry. I mean, when you give them an MG42, they can be decent, but it's like, why bother when you need that munition to really upgrade your Panzer Grenadiers? In the early game, MG42s is what retains control of a lot of the maps. As long as you have bodies on the field, you're going to be doing fine. And I think that's the greatest strength about Osttruppen. Like, what makes Osttruppen strong is the fact that they are so cheap and they do the same job as almost everything else. Ooh, do I get this? No. Ooh, I do! Lucky! RNGesus is with me at long range. But he goes for the decap, and in my opinion, he does very, very well by continually going for the decap, but he kind of ruins it when he charges the machine gun here. But I make a critical misplay here. Don't react fast enough to the flanking ranges, and I do not pop concentrate fire fast enough, so they will get fragged and decrewed because, you know, once rangers get that close,
Is being overrun.
there is no escaping them. Luckily, there is an MG42 here, which can kind of salvage the situation. But then the Panzer IV arrives. This is the thing with it. He actually made some mistakes. He didn't get his armor fast enough. He's in a position to grab armor, but I think he just gets so demoralized from this Panzer IV that he just taps out here. I would like to see this strategy done by someone who actually is better with micro. I mean, going against, I'm not gonna say was, you know, exceptional in any way, shape, or form. His unit preservation was pretty lousy. He never placed any mines. Well, he's USF, so he actually has no access to mines. But he didn't really do anything unexpected, if you know what I mean. He did the run of the mill. He was a bit late to grab AT, and when he did grab AT, he actually has no snares. So the Jackson would have been moderately useless. It depends on the situation. But I would like to see the MG42 heavy tactic used a lot, like used in a high tier game. I can kind of recall it used to be. I don't know what happened. Maybe the meta just shifted and people forgot about it, or there was a very good hard counter found. But as long as you don't blob it up and you keep that machine gun critical, it serves you well into the mid game where you can just call down using all your saved up some of your saved up manpower to around the 9-minute mark, just get that critical boost in fuel. Whoops, sorry about that. A bit of an audio bug happened there, so I decided to re-record it. So yeah, once you leverage your superior fuel from the supply drop, you don't need to go overboard. Don't go overboard and just keep spamming it, because that will prove to be a disaster. But once you can get that critical advantage, get that tank out quickly. I mean, I definitely think the guy could have perhaps stayed in longer with the Jackson arriving. He's almost got enough manpower for not a ranger squad, but another infantry squad. And I think maybe the second ranger squad was a mistake. He should have been replenishing his riflemen instead of getting rangers. But hey, I think he could have kept in longer, but he tapped out anyway. I would say very smart play going for the captain and the Pak Howie. He didn't play completely terribly. His unit preservation was probably his greatest weakness and what cost him the game. What I could have done better was probably a bit more micro on my MGs, especially down here. That guy did not need to die. I just microed really badly over here, let them get away with a bit too much, and paid the price for it. But yeah. Oh, tell me what you think of this strategy. I do want to play Wehrmacht a bit more, get a bit better with them. I love them. They're a versatile faction. I mean, and the Doctrines now, maybe not when I played them originally when KOF 2 first came out, but now their Doctrines seem to actually make a difference, much like the US Doctrines. I do like factions whose Doctrines change how they play. I've been playing Brits looking for that, and then I found out, you know, all it does is really improve the ones which are viable, at least, only really improve their playstyle. Probably the only one which really changes it is the one with Infiltration Commandos, but I don't know, Infiltration Commando, that one is just a bit too not really fun to play for me anyway. So yeah, tell me what you think, whether you liked it or not. How would you improve it? Because that's something I would like to see. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the future. Until then, goodbye.